Welcome to another episode of Show and Tell Books. I'm Amber,
And I'm Chantelle.
and today we're talking about Fourth Wing. So, Fourth Wing has been all over social media. It got a ton of hype right when it was released. It was written by Rebbecca Yarros. It's a romantasy novel that gives you a bit of an introduction into high fantasy without being an overwhelming high fantasy. So it is important to note that this is an unfinished series. The sequel is being released in November of this year. And I think it's slated to be at least 5 books, right? So the first book, The Fourth Wing, talks about Violet entering the war college as Gaia and kind of feeling a lot of pressure from her family to try for the writer's quadrant when she thought her entire life would lead to being a scribe. Meets up with an old friend, meets some new friends, and has some enemies that she has to navigate her first school year with.
Some political intrigue going on. Dragons are obviously a huge aspect of it because, they can't be writers without dragons. There's also some betrayals and magical powers thrown in. You've got information that's being withheld for a war that is ongoing. And so there's a lot of different layers to the war school that help elevate and add to this story. One thing I actually really liked about it is that it actually starts right in the action. That is what chapter 1 is about. Whereas a lot of other fantasy books you have a little pre-story before the full action kind of goes in. So it's kind of like a lead up into it. And then you have the 3 acts of what's going on. This one didn't have that at all. It's a completely different kind of writing style, which I think is part of the reason it did so well on booktok.
I think the other thing to note is Rebbecca Yarros is a military spouse, and she wrote the dialogue much like you would hear in a military community. And I know that that's kind of been a point of controversy for readers as well. There's some people who are like, her dialogue is underdeveloped and not great. And other people are like, I mean, she's writing about a bunch of people going to a military academy. It's on par for what you would hear at a military academy.
I think it's tricky because for someone who probably lives in that kind of jargon, that's very much how you speak. You have kind of a shorthand. And while it is very realistic as to what would a normal war college would kind of be like, I think she could have done a slightly better job in her intro book, this one, of kind of explaining it to the readers. However, it's not enough that I had a noticeable issue with it. It was just something you had to kind of pick up quicker, or you have to get a lot more context clues on.
Let's talk about our Taylor Swift tie-in. And I'm going to say at this point, spoilers alert, because we can't really talk about why we chose the song Ivy as kind of the match for the Fourth Wing without giving away some spoilers and just talking about the rest of the book and our opinions and theories as the video goes on. So if you haven't read The Fourth Wing yet and you don't want spoilers, go ahead and and save this video, come back and watch it once you've read it. Let's dive in.
For those who don't know, back in August, we released a video with some of our favorite books and how they matched into certain Taylor Swift songs. So we did every album Taylor's ever come out with and then picked 3 songs from there and then matched a book that matched the lyrics or the vibe or the theme of whatever the lyrics were. So we tried really hard and we're quite proud of one for Fourth Wing because we both really liked the book, in case you can't tell. That's why we're doing a video about it. And like Ember said, we ended up picking Ivy, and that was for multiple reasons. What we're going to do right now is we're going to kind of break down why we thought Ivy was such a good fit to the book, and then also kind of our thought processes of why a certain line reminded us of a certain moment in Fourth Wing. Okay, so starting off, how's one to know? I'd meet you where the spirit meets the bones in a faith-forgotten land.
Right from the start, we get the sense that Violet is torn about what she's pursuing at the War College. And because of her training as a scribe, she has a deeper understanding of what used to exist in their world before the war, like what faith systems existed, the fables that were around. So that's kind of what I thought about.
An entire new chapter is about to start, which is kind of the point of the song too, is like, how was I supposed to know that my entire life was going to change in this moment?
In from the snow, your touch brought forth an incandescent glow, tarnished but so grand.
I can't, like, this is just, how does Violet find out she has powers? All the moments when like she's making out with Xaden and all of a sudden like a tree, or like they get thunder snow, right? And she's like, whoa, that's so weird. That doesn't happen a lot. And you're just like, you're an idiot. But I mean, that's this line of, well, she has powers, right? Xaden is one who like helps her realize and unlock them a lot more. So, you know, he brought forth a incandescent glow. And the old widow goes to the stone every day, but I don't. I just sit here and wait, grieving for the living.
I also thought the first line, and the old widow goes to the stone every day, was kind of interesting because Violet lost her father and her mother is now a widow and is the commander of the war college. And so you get kind of this dynamic of what their family life is like, and in the relationship Violet has with her sister and her mother and the brother she lost. Oh, GD, my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine, but it's been promised to another.
So while with this one, like her and Dane technically aren't betrothed, right? They're not engaged. There's no technical promise, but there's kind of a semi-understood promise within their families, to the point where like Mira's like, go find Dane when you get there. He'll keep you safe. Like they know that he's trusted. And so taking that and kind of putting that into the context of this song. But my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand. One of the reasons we really like Xaden as a character is because he enables Violet a lot to do what she's actually growing to do. Whereas Dane limits her a lot more and he only sees her for her pain and her weakness. Whereas Xaden just kind of like, yeah, and oh, I can't stop you putting roots in my dreamland. My house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you.
Xaden, one of Xaden's powers is shadow wielding, and fans of ACOTAR and Fourth Wing all have their favorite things to say about individuals blessed with the power of shadow wielding. That's immediately what I think of when it's my house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered. Is you see how Xaden's impact on Violet progresses throughout the story. Again, it goes back to her thirstiness of I have no control over my thoughts of you.
Well, she even has multiple moments where her inner dialogue's like, man, I'm obsessed. This is kind of a problem. And that's exactly it. Like, it literally is like ivy growing kind of and can't be controlled. And that's what's happening with her inner monologue. Xaden's kind of taking over.
I wish to know the fatal flaw that makes you long to be magnificently cursed.
This one's a lot of like the secrets that are told or the secrets that are being kept by Violet throughout the novel of what Xaden is doing, and kind of like the questions she has about him in the back of her head of what he's up to. That's kind of how I understand it, of her figuring out why he's cursed and what actually that curse means and how it's different than what she'd always assumed growing up it was, and kind of having a coming of age moment of realizing it wasn't as black and white as she thought it was. That is it really fair that all of the kids of those who rebelled get marked and are, you know, cursed?
She's trying to figure out her own fatal flaw at the same time. Like, she grew up being told she was too weak to accomplish any of these things, and she's trying to overcome that self-doubt. And so I feel like as she's struggling with that, it's having a bigger impact on how she understands Xaden and the ones who were cursed.
He's in the room. Your opal eyes are all I wish to see. He wants what's only yours. I feel like that one's kind of self-explanatory.
Well, the last line in particular reminds me of the political part of this story. So there is a power struggle in their political structure. You have these sides that Violet grew up thinking, oh, these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. and now she's having to face like there's a lot more gray in the story, and the victor writes the history and it's not accurate. And towards the end of the novel, she meets one of the generals who is seeking power in the political system. And I think she gets a hint of why exactly the rebellion children have been treated the way they have. And there's really a discussion of this: he wants what's only yours. Like, the power that these children have is what he desires.
Then there's the chorus. We're going to just skip that. Clover blooms in the field, spring breaks loose, the time is near. What would he do if he found us out?
So the first thought I had was, when clover blooms in a field that's used for grazing for cattle, it is extremely detrimental to them and can result in a lot of death, because cattle can't actually process clover. Leads to
I love
blood.
that you know that.
The random things my brain maintains. So the first thing I thought of is kind of that battlefield, like, this is alluding to the death that they're going to face, that they've already faced in their education, but also in the missions that they're going to face once they graduate to the next level or graduate from the school. I feel like the next two lines really build on that as the story is told, especially because at the end, when they're supposed to be kind of doing their capstone project for the year, the mission is changed for Xaden, and it results in this core group of people you've really gotten to know and care about going on a mission because the individual who found out betrayed them and led to the consequences associated.
So those last lines kind of tying in. Crescent moon, coast is clear, spring breaks loose, but so does fear. He's going to burn the house to the ground. And that's exactly what you're stating. Like, their capstone project quite literally burns to the ground in certain locations, and their involvement as it is all due to the betrayal of a certain character and his possessiveness of Violet and kind of his perceived betrayal of who she ends up picking.
How's one to know? I'd live and die for moments that we stole on begged and borrowed time. So tell me to run or dare to sit and watch what will become and drink my husband's wine.
I think this one, especially in light of the previous paragraph and kind of like what we're alluding to of the war and the truths that are exposed because of that capstone project. I think that's very much kind of Violet's inner thoughts when she has another betrayal by Xaden and she realizes the blissful ignorance, for lack of a better word, that she was living under with him are now tainted. And so she kind of looks back on it with like, how is she supposed to know that she would recollect those memories and not be able to like make new ones because she no longer trusts Xaden.
The last line makes me think about one of the theories we'll talk about. So just know that that's also one of the reasons I thought this song worked so well with the book, is because my personal theories, I'm like, oh, confirmation bias, yes.
Then it's the chorus. So yeah, it's a fire, it's a GD blaze in the dark, and you started it. So yeah, it's a war, it's a GD fight of my life, and you started it.
And I think this perfectly encapsulates Violet's struggle with the final conflict in this book and the situation she finds herself in and trying to come back from the loss that she's experienced.
Well, especially because the you in that could be at basically anyone in that entire book, especially at the end when she's like feeling very alone because she kind of has been betrayed or has perceived betrayal from just about everyone in the novel. Like,
well, I feel confident saying she is, to some degree, she has been manipulated by every single character that she thought was her friend or family.
One of the theories that is currently existing that I think is really fascinating is her mom is very much right now painted out, well, in the books is kind of just neutral, but not a great mom. But fan-wise, everyone's kind of insisting that she's actually kind of a bad guy because she wields storms. So is it a coincidence that the second Violet gets on the parapet, the storm intensity kicks up a lot to the point where like the kid who's after her like dies because of it.
And there's another instance of her being on the parapet and a storm coming as well. So it's,
Yep. There's a couple instances that back this up.
yeah, like once is once, twice is more than a coincidence.
Yep. What's the theory you wanted to highlight?
I personally am in the boat that Violet's mother is a very bad woman. Like, I think she was manipulative and used the entire system to clean up her messes. So I'm in the camp of Violet's mom had it out for her and also probably murdered her father.
One of the theories I personally really love is that someone, Xaden, actually was the one who gave Violet her journal, or Brennan's journal, and it wasn't in fact Mira, which actually kind of makes sense because how did one Mira sneak into the college or bribe a scribe to get in there? Like that would have been impressive. I do kind of like the thought of Xaden having that journal and passing it on because he knows her brother and has probably heard stories of her from the brother for the past 5 years.
The romance readers in us are like, oh, Xaden heard all sorts of stories about Violet from her brother and fell first. And you already knew that he probably fell first if you go back and read like about his actions. So one of the other theories I think we should touch on is Violet's magic. The magic system, in my opinion, that Rebbecca Yarros created, she did not actually give you any details on in this first book, or like we're left to make a lot of assumptions, and I don't know that those assumptions are accurate based off of the unreliable narrator that Violet is. So there's a lot of theories about what kind of magic Violet has, if her signet has in fact manifested or hasn't, what magic the dragons are capable of using, how it's been used up into this point. Like, my personal favorite in terms of the dragon magic is that Andarna possibly stopped time after the final battle, and that's why she's grown as a dragon, and everyone else thinks it's only been 3 days. But so I think it'll be interesting to see how book 2 picks up where book 2 picks up, and if there's going to be a greater description of the magic system at work.
There's also a lot of theories out there that she might be able to time step or like walk through time.
And then we alluded to this earlier. I'm going to state it now. I think it's going to be confirmed in the next book. I think Xaden and Violet are fated mates.
If there's any other theories you guys like or want to talk about, drop them in a comment. There are tons out there. So we only kind of highlighted some of our favorites, but there's a lot that we probably haven't seen yet. So let us know your guys' thoughts on the theories we shared, any other theories you have. This was a lot more fun than any of the like English analyses we ever had to do in high school and college. I wish this was actually what was taught, of do an analysis of Fourth Wing using Taylor Swift's Ivy as your backdrop and explain your thoughts. This was a lot more fun. Obviously, we are major nerds for even kind of doing this, but we hope you guys had fun and that you guys enjoyed it. At the very least, that you learned something new. We highly recommend Fourth Wing. It's completely in the new adult category. So as such, know that going into it. We also would probably put it on our spice scale.
I would say it's a 6.
It's still one of my absolute favorite books of this year. I loved it.
It's one that, like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of praise, but a lot of criticism, and a lot of people have said, oh, it was completely overhyped. The marketing budget must have been insane. And if you're looking for a typical high fantasy novel like Brandon Sanderson, that's not what this is. And that might be why there have been so many critics, is if you go into it not knowing what it is, you'll be disappointed.
That is it for this video. Again, like Amber said, let us know whatever thoughts you guys have about Fourth Wing. If you think it's worth the hype, if you don't think it's worth the hype, drop it in a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.